Thanks, guys. I'm Jerry. I'm an alcoholic. I guess I can take this off, right? Okay. I'm Jerry. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober since September 10th of 2000 this time. Patrick, thank you so much for asking me to come up here and be of service and tell my story. I think it was Bully where I first met you. There was a little, it's not there anymore, I don't think, but I don't know. I haven't been down there in a while, but he used to sit in there. There was like a crowd of us up there all the time, and that's one of the things that helped me get sober and stay sober, is to be among alcoholics, you know, in the meetings, but also outside the meetings. You know, Dallas is a really special place because there were all these little places, Starbucks and the Bully and that Crossroads Market that used to be there. I guess it's where Hunky's is there now. We used to go up there and sit around, and I spent a great deal of my time when I wasn't at work and when I wasn't at meetings sitting there with you alcoholics and just kind of, you know, shit talking, but they held my hand and got me through the first few years. And what happened is I established a pattern every day that I got into for like the first 3 years of my sobriety, and I did the same thing every day, and every day consisted of going to work, going to the gym, going to a meeting, and then fellowship after the meeting. And that got me through the first few years of sobriety. And then things changed and got different, and I'll tell you about that. What happened, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So the first time I've been through this program a couple of different times, and I'll briefly go into that and everything. I was born in southwestern Arkansas, in this little town called DeQueen, Arkansas, and then they took me back over across the border in Oklahoma. You guys probably know where this is because a lot of people go up and stay at those beautiful cabins up there. Is Broken Bow, Oklahoma. And those were not there when I was growing up there. That's like a recent development. So it was, if you've been up there, you kind of looked around probably and saw what kind of place that is. And when we didn't have all the tourists coming up there, it was just a little tiny town with a bunch of redneck people that were very closed off from the world, and they have their own little culture up there. And that's where I grew up, was in that little culture up there. The people up there drink a lot, they do a lot of drugs, and that's normal. They cowboy around, they go to honky tonks, and they're like a very redneck type people, and that's where I grew up. So as you might have guessed, I'm a gay man, and I didn't really fit in with people up there, and I didn't know any gay people at all, and I knew from a really early age, I didn't know exactly what to call it or what it was, but I knew that I was something different, and it wasn't like the other people up there. And I noticed that my interests and stuff were a lot different than other people. They tried to push me they set me up on a horse and wanted me to rodeo, and then my parents would try to like push me into playing soccer or baseball or basketball or whatever it was that they were doing. And I didn't take to it. You know, it wasn't for me. And I didn't like it, and then every time I didn't like something, that they kind of looked at me funny, like, well, what the fuck is wrong with him? Sorry, I said that. Like, what's wrong with that kid, you know? And so, you know, my parents were really good to me, especially financially. They paid for everything. They let me do anything I wanted to do. I was the only child, and they took really good care of me. You know, my mom did everything that she could do to raise me well, and my dad literally forked out the money to do that. So you know, I can't say anything, you know, that my parents neglected me or anything like that, because they did not. You know, I had a pretty good childhood, but when I got to school, I was different than other kids, and it was kind of like a setup for a lot of discomfort when I went to school. I didn't fit in, you know, and so I always had this feeling like, well, there's something wrong with me, and you know, I probably needed to take a drink a lot earlier than I actually took one. I made it all the way to 17 years old. But when I finally did get a drink, it felt really good. And then I guess it was just like this feeling of being in fear, but like my whole life I was in fear, but I had been in fear so long that it didn't even register that I was in fear. You know, and when I took the drink of alcohol, that feeling just went away, and finally I was able to kind of relax just a little bit. You know, I could not worry for a second about what people thought about me. You know, and it felt good. And I can't say that I took to alcohol like instantly. I didn't really like the way that it tasted, but I sure did like the way that it made me feel. And you know, even still to this day, I don't think that I would like the way that a drink tastes, but I like the way that it feels. And you know, most normal drinkers probably like the taste of a beer, but I am definitely not normal. I am alcoholic in every way. I do it with food, with drugs, gambling, credit cards. I say alcoholic because that's kind of a blanket term. It was told to me that pretty much covers everything. If I say I'm an alcoholic, that we know what you mean, okay? So I do that with everything. But alcohol was readily available. There was pot available, and there was this stuff called crank, I think is what they were calling it back then. That was available in Broken Bow. And if you didn't like those three, then you were just shit out of luck. So anyway, I chose alcohol, and I did a little bit of pot. I didn't really like it. It made me real paranoid. It made me hungry, and I was already kind of overweight, and I didn't, you know, I was thinking that might not be a good combination for me. I couldn't drive. So I got a car when I was 16 years old, and that is when I got a new batch of friends that drank. And that's pretty much all that we did for the next few years until I graduated high school. We went and drank, we went to parties, everything was kind of normal. I didn't get too out of control. And then I went off to college, and they sent me to an expensive college in Oklahoma City. And up there, I once again didn't fit in with people. Up there was kind of a conservative college that I went to. And I didn't really fit in with those kids. And so I found another group of kids that were they kind of hung around the college group, but they might not necessarily be in college. And I hung out with them because they accepted me. And that's when we first started going to gay bars and to like those teen dance bars where there was like, I don't know, it was like punk or new wave or something. I don't know what it was. It was in the late 80s, industrial dance clubs and stuff like that. And I had a lot of fun doing that, but I could not balance my drinking and going to classes. So basically I just stayed up at night and partied, and I didn't go to school. I flunked out of school, and I had to go back home. After a year, I went back home, and then I hung out with this girl that I was friends with for another year, and that is where my drinking really accelerated. We didn't have anything to do except get completely fucked up, and that's what we did every day, to the point where there was times when I would throw up on myself, and it wasn't good. So, and then a year went by of doing that, and then I went back to college, and this time I was a little more willing to actually go to the classes and do the work, but my drinking kept going, and I can tell you it wasn't very long after I started to drink. Probably I was maybe 18 or 19 years old, when I started to black out, and through the rest of the time that I drank and used, it was 100% of the time that I blacked out. I'm a complete, total blackout drinker, and it didn't matter what drug that I was doing. to try to compensate for that. If I did meth, if I did coke, it didn't make any difference. I might have been awake, but I was in a blackout. So, and I did a lot of things that I never remembered, said things to people that I don't remember. So, and fast forward a little bit, when I got to the steps, I was like, oh shit, I have to write down a whole list of stuff, and I can't even remember some of that stuff, So that was a little dicey, but anyway. So when I got up to about 23 years old, I became interested in kind of like losing my straight friends that I had been hanging out with and pretending that I was like them or whatever and not gay. I kind of lost interest in hanging out with them, and I started to go to the gay bars by myself. And at this point, I had not really done anything besides pot and alcohol. And when I got to the gay bars, I went out literally on the first night that I went out up there by myself. I met this girl. There was a Asian girl and this one guy, and I thought the guy was really cute, and he liked me and I liked him, and the girl was really fun to be around. And they took me to an after party, and as soon as I walked in the door over there, somebody held up a key like this and said, "You want a bump?" And I didn't know what that meant. And the guy stuck it up to my nose and he said, "Just snort it." And I said, "But I heard it might kill me if you do." The first time you do coke, that you could have a heart attack. And I was like, he goes, "Shut up and just do it." And I did it. And there has never been a time when I took a drink, I might have got one beer down after that incident happened, that I did not do coke or meth or something like that after it. So from that point on, my drinking was not only just alcohol. The drinking consisted of alcohol and searching for cocaine. So I was going to all of these bars and stuff up there in Oklahoma City where I went to college, and I guess people wanted me to come to their parties and stuff. I don't really know. I was always blacked out when they invited me, so I went to their parties. I always did coke, and things started to accelerate when I added the speed and the meth and the coke to it, and things got really dark fast. But I was in that crowd now where I got invited to the parties. They maintained everything. I didn't really have to buy any drugs. It was always just given to me. And I got invited to everything, so it was just like an ongoing thing. And so I got into this pattern of daily drinking, nightly parties, and I would end up going home about 10 o'clock the next day when the sun was already up, and sleep. I don't really know how I managed to graduate from college, but somehow I did it and got my degree, and I moved to Dallas immediately after that. And when I got down here, I didn't know hardly anybody. I knew I had a bar acquaintances here, and the drinking continued, the drug use accelerated, it got more and more. Meth was all the time. And I went to JR's, I went to Moby's, and I had drug dealers in each place, and I had started to buy it at that point. And people started to disappear from my life because I was so out of control. They were probably embarrassed to be seen with me. And I would go out by myself, and I would get my drugs, and then I would frequent bookstore, or are they bookstores or video stores or whatever those sleazy little places are with the arcades. I would go there. I would go to bathhouses. I would go just anywhere where there were other people that had probably been banished by people that were doing drugs. So we congregate somewhere, we meet somewhere, but I was extremely alone. Even though those people were there and I knew they were doing the same thing that I was doing, I was extremely alone, like just very lonely, very, very lonely. And so I guess my mom cared about me enough that she came down for a visit to see what was going on in my life. And she came to stay with me, And it was about 10 o'clock at night. She had been there. We went to go get something to eat, and I told her I needed to go out. And so I went out, and I went to the Brick, which was down there under the bridge, under the tollway. And I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning after doing my thing, drinking cocaine, meth, whatever it was that I was doing that night. And she had volunteered to clean my apartment while I had been gone. And I mean, I don't know where she found all this stuff, but she had about 6 or 7 baggies laid out on the coffee table of, with a substantial amount of stuff still left in them. And I was like, God, I would have never found all that. I would have never found it. And my apartment looked like the city dump, and there was just disgusting stuff in there, like cat food that was a week old that was in the sink, and I wasn't living right, She cleaned the entire apartment up, and then she had everything laid out, and she wanted to know what this is and why are you doing this after you graduated from college and everything and are starting to work and your career and what is going on here? And she goes, I want to know everything, and I want to know why. And then so I was drunk enough and high enough that night that I thought, well, I'll just tell her everything, And that's how I came out to my mom, that I was gay. And I was about halfway blacked out, but I do remember snapshots of it, and I thought she was going to have a heart attack. I almost called an ambulance, And so it was real pleasant, and then we didn't talk for a long time, and then she started to come down and drug test me. And I failed literally every single time I failed it. It was always positive for methamphetamine, because I couldn't stop long enough. And I knew she was coming, I could have at least gone a couple of days if I had been normal, but I'm not normal. I can't do that. Once I'm going with it, I have to keep doing it. And I couldn't even stop long enough to do a clean drug test, not even once. And and she told me, and remember, I'm from way out in the middle of nowhere, redneck. These people are not like all of you. She told me that since I failed all the drug tests, she said, I'm going to have your dad come down here and get you, and we're going to fix this. And what she meant was, she actually told me, we're going to lock you up. And it would have been like a creepy cabin in the woods lockup scene thing, like on a horror movie, like that. It's not going to Betty Ford, that wasn't going to happen. So I decided, and because she really meant business, and I know when my mom is serious about something, and I think they really would have done that, because they were worried about me, and they probably thought that I was going to kill myself or something. And so anyway, I told her, I said, well, I'll go to AA if I can find the right group to go to. And so I called Lambda, which was over on 2727 Oak Lawn, and there's a bunch of people in here right now that were there when I first showed up over there. It was June 29th, 1997. Steve was there that night. There was a bunch of people there. And it was very welcoming, and you have to understand, I didn't have any friends. I had been abandoned by people at this point. And when I got there, they were like, keep coming back. Oh, you want to go hang out with us? So I went and hung out with them after the meeting. They seemed happy. And I thought, wow, man, this might work. Maybe I can do this. It's better than feeling like shit every day and wanting to kill yourself, So I went back the next day, and I got a sponsor, and his name was James, little blonde-headed skinny boy. And he hung out with me, and he talked to me, and just kind of told me what he does, and we would go like to the gym and stuff. So I started to kind of like do normal things again, and we would go to the gym, we would hang out, we would go eat. It was actually a real human person, and I'm not drunk and I'm not high, and I'm getting to relate to somebody, for a change. And then I would go to the meetings, and then there was a group of people that would go to those little coffee shops and stuff and go to dinner and stuff after the meetings. So it was really nice for me because I was not living that life, you know. I was living at night like a vampire with bar acquaintances and don't get too close to me, but yeah, you can have a bump, now get the fuck out, kind of people. And this was really nice, to get to be around some normal people. And it was also a gay group over there, so it was nice to get to be around, people like me, but they were living like a normal day life, They had jobs, they were happy. Some of them were in relationships, so it gave me a lot of hope, maybe that I could be like that, maybe I could. And so I stayed sober. I worked steps 1, 2, and 3, and I told my sponsor, and I had gotten a new sponsor at this point because my sponsor James came into a large sum of money and moved to Los Angeles, and he's still there now, and I still see him, but I had to get another sponsor, and his name was David Duncan, and David Duncan literally saved my life. He taught me a lot of things that I didn't get growing up. My parents did a good job, but they left out a lot of stuff. And David taught me the rest of it, basically. And he worked with me. He hung out with me. He told me that if I don't work the steps, that I'm not going to stay sober. Well, that's exactly what happened. I did get into a relationship about 9 months sober, and I moved to Chicago. And eventually, I had a higher power. I was living with him, and I didn't need to go to meetings anymore. And then I started to think, well, maybe I really didn't even have a problem. Maybe it was just problem drinking or something, and I drank too much and I caused myself problems. And and this girl asked me at work to go see her brother's band down in Indiana, and I thought, what could happen there? It's Indiana. It's her brother's band, and I thought it was safe. And she goes, yeah, just get a 6-pack of beer and come over and we'll drive down, Jerry, and we'll go see my brother's band play. And I was like, innocent, nothing's going to happen. And I'm not even driving or anything. So we went down there. I blacked out, and snapshots of the evening was lights going by, going back to Chicago, and I was in the bathroom snorting coke at the manhole with no shirt on. And then I walked home that night. I think it was 11 degrees outside from what I can remember. And I walked into my building with the door guy there with no shirt on. I went upstairs and I managed to wreck my relationship, and I got asked to move out the next day. And also I woke up to the phone ringing. It was work calling saying, where are you? And I got written up for that and put on a notice at work. So one night I managed to wreck my relationship, get asked to move out, and got myself in trouble at work where I had to really watch it, And I do believe that they knew what that I did at work. Everybody knew. It wasn't any secret, So one night I almost destroyed everything, And then I continued to drink for about a year, and I finally got back down here. But during that year, I did other drugs that I had not done before, and I went to a new low. I was on the floor in my nasty apartment with beer bottles and cigarettes and stuff everywhere, and I was rocking back and forth and crying, and I asked God, please help me. And it was about 2 weeks later, miraculously, I'm back in Dallas. David's my sponsor. I have a job that I start at Children's Medical Center 3 days. And I took my drug test. I had done crystal 2 days prior to that, I believe, and I passed the drug test. So I'm not one of these people that ever went to rehab. I went to work, and I had this mean nurse named Nancy Belford, just every day just screaming at me, and that was my rehab. It worked, I guess. I got back into a pattern, which is what I needed to do. I started going to meetings again. I decided this time that maybe it would be important for me to work the rest of the steps, 4 through 12. My sponsor gave me an ultimatum. David told me that you need to have your inventory done by the time you get 6 months sober. And I did it. I did it. I wrote everything down. I thought it was stupid. And I went over there and we did step 5 together. He instructed me on what to do. Later on, I went home. I laid down for a little bit and I did the rest of it. And then we continued to do the rest of the steps. Well, I stayed sober the whole time. Let me see how much time I got. I stayed sober. So, that's been over 20 years ago. And things got really good for me. I had a good job. I had an established pattern. I had a lot of friends. I had a good program. What I really want to say, and this has been reiterated for me, I don't learn anything the easy way. I'm motivated by pain, and if something really bad doesn't happen to me, there's no motivation to change. And that's been my experience. That was my experience with getting sober the second time. I had to get into this incredible amount of pain where I was on the floor and I literally felt like the biggest piece of shit and I wanted to die, to get sober again, to get motivated to do the rest of the steps. I brought somebody back in with me when I got sober this time, who was also who was my drug dealer, and he's still sober too. And he told his story here about, I don't know, a month and a week ago or something like that, but he's still sober too. Anyway, so my life got really good. I had a few years. When I got to year number 3, I moved out to San Diego. I didn't take a TV with me, and I had one of these Serenity years. So year 3 was spent literally like meditating, going to meetings, going to work, and really not exposing myself to anything traumatic or anything like that. No relationships, nothing like that. So I got to heal up in that year. When I got to year 7, I had a career change. I was offered a job up in New York, and it was an opportunity for me to not be an OR nurse anymore, and to move in to the next step and use what I had already learned and to apply it to something new. And I took it, and I spent 3 years commuting back and forth to New York and working for this gigantic company that gave me every opportunity in the world to have a really good career and set me up for success, whether I stayed with them or not, and I was, things happened to me during that first decade where it is impossible for me to say that God did not intervene. God, my sponsor always tells me God will take care of me no matter what. God will take care of me no matter what. And this is really true. He beat that into me, and I didn't know what he was talking about when he first, told me that. But, what the deal is if I do my part and I stay sober and I do what you guys tell me to do in here, what my experience has been is that I will be taken care of. And there hasn't been anything this whole time that I've been sober that I couldn't get through, that I had to use or drink over. I've had deaths. I've had 3 dogs die on me. My little dog just died 2 weeks ago, and I had him for 13, 14 years. That he was my little sober companion, and he went everywhere with me. Dogs are little gifts from God. They teach you unconditional love. If you don't know how to love unconditionally, a dog will teach you that. And I've had the honor of living with 3 different dogs that show me that and taught me that, how to do that. They're the best little companions you could ever have. But anyway, so I had a career change at year 7. and I have continued to be taken care of. I have never had to look for a job, and I've had 3 different jobs since then. And people have just asked me, "Would you like to come on?" It's almost too odd, that I don't have to do much of anything, just to be of service, to suit up and show up. And now, and I've been all over the world, and these are things that when I first got sober, I was like, I couldn't even fathom being, asked to do stuff like that. I thought that I was just, not really worthy of doing anything like that. And that, God, who would ever ask me to do stuff like this and to travel across the globe and do things for them, and teach people things. And, so I have been very, very blessed and very taken care of. And I always tell people when I'm sharing, just like in a discussion meeting, I have everything to be grateful for. And I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. When I got up to, and I'm not cured, I'm just recovered, okay? When I got up to about year 16, 2016 through 2018, I decided that I really didn't need this program anymore, and that I would just be fine on my own. Now, what I can say about that is I know that I need this program. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, okay? The steps are the solution for me. That's the medication for the disease, okay? Fine, the fellowship is great, the meetings are great, but if I don't do the work, I will literally fall, okay? So if I don't take the medication, which are the steps, then something is going to happen. So 2016 through 2018, I was back and forth from Los Angeles to Dallas, and I didn't need the meeting anymore. I had left LA and come back here. And there was a meeting that was literally half a block away from my front door. And do you think I would go? No, I never got up and went over there. I knew they were over there. I could see them outside when I go out on my little porch. I could see them over there. And I would look at them and I'd think, oh God, I just wouldn't want to go to that meeting, Why would I ever even want to go over there? And I would sit in my apartment by myself. And you know what? I sat there by myself so long that I thought that there was something wrong with my mind. And there actually was something wrong with my mind. But I called my sponsor, David D., and I also called David Miramontes, who was my other sponsor, and both of them told me the same thing. They said, Jerry, it sounds to me like you're a dry drunk. And I was like, no, that's not what's wrong. So I went to the doctor, and I told him, I said, I just feel horrible. I feel horrible. When I think back on it now, what it really was is I was in like this spiral down self-pity, and I wasn't going to meetings. I did not have a sponsee. I certainly wasn't reading the big book or anything like that. I did not pray. I had lost my connection to my higher power completely. And I spiraled down into this situation. Now, I'm going to tell you about this, and no offense to anybody that takes antipsychotic medication or anything, or antidepressants or anything like that. People need that stuff. They might kill themselves if they don't get it. More power to them, do your deal, This is my experience with this, okay? So I guess you could say that I was misdiagnosed because my sponsors pinned it. I was in a dry drunk. I wasn't working my program. The doctor said all this other stuff, well, yeah, you're depressed. Let's give you something for that. And while we're at it, let's throw in a mood stabilizer too. And so I got put on medication, and I did take it as prescribed and everything, but I literally became like a zombie. And I had these thoughts where, I don't know exactly what to call them. I maybe suicidal ideation is the right word. I don't know. But let me describe it. The thought was, I hope when I walk the dogs, that somebody comes up and stabs me, and I can, before I bleed out completely, I can get the dogs back inside before I die. Those kind of thoughts. Really crazy shit going on up here. Like hoping somebody would kill me where I didn't have to do it, you know? And it didn't get any better with the medication. It just seemed like I got more like a zombie, and I thought about dying more, you know? And finally, I made a decision. I didn't go back to the program at this point or anything. I didn't, call my sponsor or anything like that at this point, but I thought, just like this intuitive thought, I have to go in there and get those medications and dump them down the toilet. And that's what I did. I flushed them down the toilet. And I didn't take them, and I went through a period of probably about 3 months where I was in this lapsed kind of withdrawal from those medications. I was in a fog. I white-knuckled everywhere that I drove. I was scared to get in the car. And I drove myself back out to Los Angeles. And I had lost tons of weight. I think I weighed about 180 pounds. My shorts were falling off of me. I didn't eat. I was a train wreck. And I sat there in my apartment. I went outside and sat in the sun until I felt better. And I went to the gym one day, and I remember thinking, I hope I don't injure anybody by falling over, because I would get dizzy and stuff after, that feeling. And then a little bit more time went by, and I called my sponsor, David, and I told him, I need your help. I need your help. And at that moment, I surrendered to the program again. I knew I had to do it, or I knew that I couldn't live like that. I couldn't feel that way. I couldn't get by that way. This is not going to work for me. So I told David, I said, I need your help. And he said, you haven't called me in a long time. I need you to read that book and call me back, and hung up on me. And I was like, what an asshole, And I said, okay. I told him, I said, okay, He hung up on me, and I read the book, and I took pictures when I would stop, and I texted them to him so he knew what I was doing. I made it this far, and I made it this far. I made it this far. And once I got to the end of the first 164 pages, I called him. I said, I read the book. I read it. He goes, okay, now we can meet. He goes, I need you to read that book. My sponsors are very clear about, you have to do the work. You're not going to just call me and check in and whine. That is not the solution here. Calling and checking in, going to a meeting and checking in. I can come to a meeting and tell you all my problems, but it's not going to help anybody. I'm just going to unload in the meeting, dump it all out for you guys, and then get up and leave. I don't get anything out of that, and neither do you. We come to meetings so newcomers can find us. I try to come to meeting and share the solution. That's my service to you, is to share the solution. So anyway, we worked the steps again, and my inventory this time was about 3 times longer than the one that I had done, whatever it was, 16 years earlier. Okay. And I was like, wow, how did I collect up all this shit over those years? And why didn't I do anything about it for that long, No wonder I was a train wreck. No wonder I was a mess. No wonder I wanted somebody to come up and kill me, Why didn't I do anything? Oh, I worked with sponsees, and we worked their stuff, but I didn't do anything for me, So I guess it is kind of a selfish program. I have to take care of myself in order to help somebody else, and that's where I was really lacking. So I did that inventory, and we went through all of it, and it took hours for me and David to go through that stuff, and it was painful. And when I was writing it, I was just excruciatingly painful stuff. And when I got on the other side of that, I can tell you what, the last few years of my life has been, I wake up happy, and I'm free, and I'm taken care of, and I'm grateful. And I even have somebody that wants to marry me. I'm like, wow, nobody ever wanted to marry me. and I never even expected anybody to say that. And, I have everything that I need in my life, I am, it's good. Things are good now. And what I took from all of that is that, if I work the steps, if I do the work in this program, there are benefits to that. And for somebody like me who is an alcoholic drug addict and can't even function normally in life without a program, I can't afford to skip out on any of this stuff. When I was working my steps and everything, I took commitments at meetings in Los Angeles. I did cleanup. I did the literature. I volunteered in a meeting every day. I had some kind of a commitment somewhere. And I started working with sponsees out there. And I still, to this day, I have people calling me from Los Angeles. And we've been back here several months now, almost a year. And they still call me from out there, and talk to me, and we work through stuff. I picked up a couple of sponsees here that I worked with some. Things are going really well, and my partner, I feel really sorry for anybody who asks him to be their sponsor, because, I guess God puts people in your life, if you just stay out of the way, good stuff will come, and it comes from God. So my partner, does this big book study, and in Los Angeles, we had several months of a big book study where all these guys would come over to our house, and I got to be the hospitality person there, set up the snacks and coordinate all that, set up everything, and I got to work through the steps yet again in another way. And the way that he does it, they go through the book and they literally just dissect everything. They work it's extensive work, and I got to do it again, and I had some more stuff. I had some more material that came up when I did it that time, and that I got to get rid of that stuff. I got to dump it out of my soul, literally. We've been doing that, and I'm doing another one with them right now, and it's on Zoom. I hate Zoom. Hate it. But, it serves its purpose. And for the way that things have been for the past year, thank God for Zoom, because I would have lost all connection completely to the program if we didn't have something like that. Just sitting in my apartment by myself, alone, is how I got into a horrible situation just a few years ago. And, thank God for Zoom. I can't stand it. And I'm speaking on Zoom on Tuesday, and I'm like, oh, God, that makes me more nervous than this does. But anyway, and those are the kind of things that we do, that I do now, and I get to do them with somebody else, I help my partner with that Zoom meeting, but he does most of it. But I feel like I get to participate in it, and I get to do my steps again. Coming up, I'll do another inventory. And that's the way it's going to have to be for me, and I learned the hard way, and thank God I didn't die learning the hard way, and all I can tell newcomers is, people will tell you to do things in here, like they'll suggest things to do. My sponsor would say, I strongly suggest that you do this. And what that means is, this is what we do to stay sober. And, the meetings are great. The people you meet in here are great, but they cannot carry you through all the way, the people that work with you and work through the steps with you, that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to save you. And it's just unfortunate that I had to really learn the hard way like that, and it scares me to death to think that I could have literally died, This disease is real. It's real. It won't go away, and it only got worse for me. How many minutes do I have? Oh, 5 minutes? Okay. Well, I'll wrap it up. I'm taking sponsees now, if anybody needs one, because if I don't have them, that won't work. I have to have somebody to work with. Anyway, but I don't know. I guess I'm to the end of that. Every time I tell this story, it's always a different variant of it. I guess I have a lot of information to share, and it feels like I don't when I get up here and somebody says, "Oh, you're going to speak for 45 minutes or whatever." But I always have something else to say, and it seems like it's different every time. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble through all of that, and I hope you got something out of it. And thank you so much.